Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Down there in the distance, that little red dot, that's where we're going to start. And if you were coming down the straight at the end of your hot lap and you'd reach that point, you'd be thinking about getting ready to brake in a straight line past those cones and down into this fairly tight right-hander. But we're not finishing a hot lap, we're about to start one, so let's jump in the car. Here we are. So I would normally be out as far to the right as you can, finishing a hot lap, and as there we can see there is now a straight line cutting across the edge of the barrier on the left. That is where I want to do most of my braking. That's the line I take as I start a new lap. Cut across here like this, I brake down from 8th and I'm down to about 3rd. If you need to use the curb on the inside, you can. I generally don't. Then we're going to cut across this apex and I swing the car right up onto the pavement. I'm looking at the Armco. I want my right front tyre as tight to that as possible. And then you'll notice there's some cones there and there's some cones down there. And in between the cones there is a gap with some nice paving outside the white line. As we've come around that corner, we're going to use that paving to make that exit as wide as possible. I'm now trying to aim for the end of the wall. I can see the green light ahead. I've got a straight run, and in the Formula Ultimate 2919 car, I am up to 6th. By the time I hit the start line there. I don't brake and slow until I hit the start line, but as soon as you hit it, I'm hard on the brakes and I'm down to 3rd gear, so 3 quick downshifts, hard on the brakes. I'm looking round the bend and as far ahead as I can. I know where the apex is. I want my front left wheel on that apex. And then on the exit I want my outside front right wheel not on the curb if possible. Getting the power on out of this corner in the Formula Ultimate car requires a gentle right foot or you will simply be looking backwards very quickly. I cheat a bit. I drop to 3rd to come into the corner. I will change up to 4th at the apex. That gives me a little more lee room to get my right foot down because of the drop in revs without simply 180ing the car. I try to avoid riding that curb if I can. It's generally quicker to stay off most of the curbs, although I'll try to point out the ones where it is quicker. And we're now coming up the gears, 4th, 5th. I'm tight into this curb. I'm up to 6th, I'm swinging out to the left, I'm up to 7th here. Now this bend, try not to run up the inside, stay on the tarmac, but if you need to run wide because of your speed, you've got paving on the outside. We're now up to 8th, if I wasn't up to 8th at the apex of the last bend, and I'm staying out as wide to the right as I can. Braking point for this sequence is about here, and I'm trying to get the car onto a little straight line. I can drive in a straight line. And I'm coming down from 8th to 4th. I might use this curve on the inside. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll run wide and keep the speed up. Same with this curve here. If you have to use that one, go straight into the line into this next bit, sequence a bit. I've come up from 4th to 6th. Lift off, dab the brakes, back down to 4th. I'm looking not at this apex, but I'm looking ahead to the left-hander, and I want to get my power on as soon as I can, so I've got as long a run down here as possible. I try not to use the curb on the outside. I'm going up a gear and up a gear. I'm hard on the brakes now. I'm out on the left. I'm down 2 gears. And I will often use this curb. Because this corner, this left-hander, is one of the more critical on the whole track for a good lap. After this coming left-hander, we are going to be going up the gears flat out, and we'll stay flat out for quite a long time. The speed I get out of this left-hander I will carry with me for the next 30 seconds or something. So I want as much speed out of here as possible. I'm coming in tight and I'm swinging out wide to get as wide an exit as possible. That's why those curves are there. I'm going up the gears. I want to be in 7th gear about here, and I'm getting the revs up, and I'm getting the revs up, and I come over the lump, and if I'm up to the rev limiter basically, that's when I change to 8th, because we're going up a hill now, and if you change to 8th with low revs, the car will struggle for the whole of the coming straight. You can get 10 or 15 kilometers an hour difference simply based on your rev speed when you change to 8th. You shouldn't need to use that outside curbing in the F1 car. This double apex right, you take it as a single right-hander. It's all flat out in 8th, which is why your speed getting to 8th and your revs when you hit 8th are so vital. Because if you change to low revs, your car's never going to reach its maximum possible speed down this hill. It's all flat, we've got 3 little left-hand kinks. Try to stay off the curbs on that side and off the grass on this side. It may seem a really easy bit of the track, but you still need to concentrate and you want to be inch perfect, getting your tyres just out as wide as you can. This is the Swedish cross, I think, this fighting place. It's scary in cars with less aero, but in an F1 car, it's just flat out, nice and easy. Stay on the tarmac, and we're staying out to the left now for the coming right-hander. About here is where the timing line used to be for the old first sector, and it's about my braking point for this curve. I'm down from 8th to 4th or maybe 3rd if I braked a bit late. I have engine braking very high as possible. So if I do find myself I've braked a bit late, I just downshift again. I've hopefully hit that apex, and I'm now getting the power back on because I'm looking at my exit. If I need to use the widen curve there, I will, but hopefully I won't. I'm swinging out to the right, and we're going flat out now and up the gears. I'm usually in 5th or 6th, I think, by this curve, then 7th, and I like to be in 8th before this left curve here. Hello mate. This hill, I used to call this squeaky bum hill when you drive it in slower cars with less aero, because it's absolutely terrifying. In an F1 car you've got so much aero, 8th gear, it's flat out. You may just bottom out the car slightly depending on the line you take through this dip. I usually take the racing line tight into that apex and then wide out to the right. Now, as you can see, you can't actually see the next bend, it's blind, but you're taking it flat out in 8th. You can see we've got raised curb on the left, so you can see where the Armco is. Just keep it floored round there. Stay out to the left. The natural racing line would take you out to the right, but we don't want to be there. We want to be over here. This car will keep going, yeah. I've now dropped 2 gears and lift, so I'm down to 6th. as we come around here, if you look ahead, I have a short, straight line I'm going to drive. This is where I do my braking and my downshifts, not when I'm turning. I have braked and dropped down to third or second, and I've come out wide. I'm looking ahead. I want to come in as tight as I can to the left apex. And I'm looking now as far ahead as I can to the right. And this corner is another very important one because of the straight following it. We want to get as much speed out of here as possible. If you have to use the raised curb on the left, hang on, because in the Formula Ultimate car, it's very easy to get spun round on getting the power on out of that chicane. We are now flat out going up the gears. We can cut this corner a bit, but if you put more than half the car over the white line there, you will get a track limits penalty. Dirty that. Off you go again. Same with this bit here. See, they've extended it a bit outside the white line. Use that if you have to. This is our timing line. And there's our tree. When you reach the tree, glance down at your wheel, check your split time. We're flat out in 8th. We're staying out to the right. And the main thing with this curve, I used to call it keep off the grass, because that's the important thing. Stay off the grass. Come in tight. We've got a bit of leeway on the right. Can come out over the white line there. I'm down from 8th to 4th, heavy braking, looking around the bend, getting the power on a little. I've now got a short, straight arm getting the power on. Gently come around here. I'm up a couple of gears. As we come over this rise though, I'm now looking at this tight right, hard on the brakes, down 2 gears, out as wide as I can. And now I'm going to start turning in and getting the longest straight run down here I can. Sometimes I'll use the curve on the left, I try to avoid it if I can. I'm going up the gears, getting the power on. I like to be in 7th before this bend. This isn't as twisty as it seems, there's a reasonably straight line through there. And we're rolling it as wide as we can for the next section. In the F1 car you don't need to use that outside curb. The car will quite happily stay on the tarmac all round here and hit the apexes. There's 3 right apexes. Hitting them all in a normal car is very difficult. In the F1 car it's fairly easy. I take that in 7th or 8th depending on the revs as I come in. I'll be in 8th on the straight and then hard brakes here down to 4th. Call this the U-bend. We want to be as wide right as we can. I'm down more gears. I'm just lifting off and looking as far ahead as I can as I turn in. And now I can see the whole sequence of the corner ahead of me. I know where the first apex is, but I'm looking ahead to the second. I know where the car's going. Wide out here. And now across to get the power on. If you need to use the curve on the left, and I usually do, getting the power on out of that sequence is one of the many places you can lose the car. Gently on your right foot, up the gears till you're flat out, and by here I'm in 7th. I'm staying in 7th, staying out wide right. We've got a little service road on the right. That's my braking point for this sequence to the left. Hard brakes, down probably to 4th. And now, here I should be getting the power back on. The car will be throwing me out to the right, but I want to stay off the curb on the right if I can. This car's having problems. This is a tricky bend. Stay off the curb on the inside, and if you can, stay off the curb on the outside. The car will be very skittish there, so get the power back on gently. But now we are on a flat out section, going up the gears. This coming left-hander is flat out. I take the wide line as I think it's just a bit bumpy on the inside here. So I'm following the wide line. It doesn't make a lot of difference. I'm swinging out to the left. I'm in 7th or 8th by now. I'm down to 4th. 4 gears, swing out wide. This corner tightens and now I'm getting the power on. As soon as I can see those red and white stripes on the left, that's when I'm getting the power on and we're booting it up this hill. We now have a long flat out section, so that's another very important corner for doing a good lap time. The speed you carry out of there, you'll be carrying all the way up the hill. I'd normally be thrashing it in 7th by now. I've changed to 8th as I come over that rise. We've got 3 little left kinks. I don't bother cutting them. Just stay on the tarmac. Come over this rise in 8th, flat out. I'm out to the right. I stay wide on this bend. I just find it's a bit bumpy on the inside and it slows you down a little. Stay wide. And then I straighten the car up. This is one of the curves I use. This is about the maximum speed you'll reach down this straight at this point, because from here we start little rises in the road and the car will start slowing down. We want to lose as little speed as possible because we're flat in 8, there's nothing we can do to go faster. All we need to do is make sure we don't lose speed. So we're being ever so smooth around all of these bends. All of the steering inputs are as gentle as possible. Right up on that curve, widen this curve as much as possible. It's all flat out in 8th. There's a couple of lines you can take. You can see there's a curve on the inside, there's a curve on the outside, and there's a curve on the inside of this corner. I've used all of them. There are several lines around that sequence. Keep an eye on your dash and on your speed and pick the one that works best for you. This right hand is flat out in 8th. And now we're coming up to some heavy braking. We're coming over a little rise. There's a curve that starts on the left there. And about here, I'm going to brake down and drop from 8th to 3rd. Heavy braking, but I try to do it in a straight line so that by now I can turn in, follow the corner round and very gently get the power on. I'll probably go up a gear just to make getting the power back on a bit safer and less chance of losing the back. And then getting flat out up the gears, I will be up to 6th, going as straight as I can up here as we hit the carousel. Drop to 3rd, come into the carousel there. I'm in 3rd, I'm balancing the wheel and my throttle to keep me on the tarmac bit, and then we're out. I'm going up the gears, just staying on the tarmac generally. I like to be in 7th by here, and then as we come up over this curb, I'm in 8th. This is all flat out, just hit that apex. You can run a little wide there, that first bit of green is safe for the tyres. Now this sequence is, it's just brilliant. Drop to 7th, lift a little. Drop to 6th, lift a little. Don't hit the curbs. I don't use the curb on the outside unless I absolutely have to, because it will throw you. Drop to 5th, drop to 4th. Swing in tight. Sometimes you can get fully crossed up here. As now I'm looking ahead and I'm getting the power back on. Going up the gears again. 5th, 6th, 7th. Coming in tight to the right-hander. Now I drop a gear. We're going to swing in tight around this left and go into all of that curve so that I've got the best line out of here as possible. I'm back up a gear, I'm back up another gear, I'm out wide, down 2 gears, fully crossed fast up, power on, pulling into that apex. You've got a bit of room on the outside that you can use. Down here, drop another gear. Swing out wide to widen this bit. This curb on the left is vital, use all of that. There's no curb on the inside, but I'm now looking as far ahead as I can, getting the power on. I'm going to use that curb on the left as much as I can. You get the whole car over here, and you won't get a track limits warning. Down 2 gears. This is a tricky bend. You want to be round the apex and try not to use the raised curb on the left if you can help it. Or if you're going to use it, be ready to hold the car as she spins. I've gone up a couple of gears and now I'm back on the brakes and down 2 gears again. I call this little hill Sabine's knees, and it's a tricky so-and-so. The amount of times I've lost the car here getting the power back on. Use this curb on the right if you have to, just to straighten your exit. And assuming you've made it round, you'll now be going back up the gears as we come into a little flat out section. So I'm 5th, I'm 6th, I'm 7th, we've got a straight line ahead of us, I'm 8th gear now. I hit this dip, drop to 7th, keep it absolutely flat out, double apex right, take it as a single bend, flat out in 7th, and change back up to 8th because come over this rise, the revs are screaming, change back up to 8th. Generally don't use the curb on the right, don't hit that curb on your left or you will take off and get airborne. We're staying out wide now for we've just got an almost straight line through the centre S's. Come there, you see I'm going in a straight line but I'm hitting all the apexes. Gently round, and I will almost always use this curve out to the left all the way along here. I want to be as wide as I can. I'm flat in 8th, I'm still flat in 8th, and I'm going to take this right-hander as part of the sequence. So rather than hitting the apex, I've missed the apex, I've come out over onto this curve. I'm now dropping 3 gears from 8th to 5th, on the brakes a bit, hit this apex, look ahead to the far side of the road, getting the power back on. If I have to ride that curve I will. I'm coming along here, dab of brakes, lift, drop 2 gears, power back on. Keeping the power on round there keeps you on the road and stops you flying off out into that armco. Up the hill now, we're coming back up the gears. 5th, 6th, 7th. This is all flat out in the 2019 Formula Ultimate car. You need to be ready for that bend, but it is all flat out. This was a jump in the 1971 version of the track, but now it's all just flat out, flat out, flat out. And by now the engine's screaming in 7th, so I'm up to 8th. And we're onto the straight. All of your work basically is done at this point. You have 3 proper corners to go and a long straight ahead of you. Your speed out of that last section determines your speed along this straight. So, like in the previous examples, the corners before straights are vital for keeping your lap time up. It is always better to be slow into a corner and fast out rather than fast in and slow out. The longer the flat out run after the corner is, the more important that becomes. So, we've been tootling along the straight, we're in 8th gear, in the Formula Ultimate car. We're probably doing about 200, 220 miles an hour, 330, 340, maybe 350 kilometres an hour, depending on the aero setup. I find the road's a bit bumpy on the right here, but it doesn't make much difference, you've just got your foot down. Staying on the road, looking at the scenery. This little left-hander is much easier now than it was in 71, where it was completely hidden in the trees, but when you reach this bridge, you need to be ready to turn slightly left, nice and gently, just staying on the tarmac. As we run down here, this will be the other fastest point on the whole track as we hit this dip at the bottom. Your speed here is the fastest the car will ever go around here. But we're keeping it flat out as we come back to the point where we started a long time ago. We're coming around here, we're staying right. I'm still flat out in 8th, and I'm going to try and get the car straightened up there before I start braking. I've now got a straight line to do my braking as I come out here, dropping gears, braking heavily down to 3rd. Use that curve if I have to, hit this apex, swing the car right up onto the pavement, look at the end of the Armco, get my right wheel there. Here I'm looking across the road to that gap in the cones. I'm using all of that run out as I get the power back on. And I'm going up the gears and thinking, wow, I've actually made it all the way around the Nurburgring without crashing. And I'm not going to cross the line because I haven't set a time in this car before. And my split time is 10 minutes for the last sector. So I think I'll give that a rest. And there you have one lap of the north loop of the Nurburgring. Probably the world's slowest. Have fun.